Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and I'm here with another reading vlog. This week I'm going to focus on reading spring books. We are having sort of spring weather. We're having northern Utah, southern Idaho spring weather where one day it's nice and warm and it feels like summer and then the next day it's snowing. So we'll see what we get with this video, but I thought since it is mid-April, it was time to start really tackling my spring TBR. If you want to know what my entire spring TBR is, I will link the video up above in the cards where I talked about my whole spring TBR and then some of my spring recommendations. I just picked 3 books off of the list for this video. We're gonna see how much I can read, hopefully in the next week. I would love if this could just take me like the next week, and I feel like some of these books I could get through really fast. But of the list on my spring TBR, these are the 3 that I decided I wanted to read now. So first one is the second book in the Fablehaven series. This is Fablehaven Rise of the Evening Star by Brandon Mull. I started the first book of this series when I did my Husband Picks My Reads video, and I definitely wanted to be continuing. Do I know how spring vibes this one's going to be? No, but I feel like the first one was pretty springy, and so I'm just kind of going on the assumption that this one will also be similar vibes. I could be totally wrong. Again, I have not read these books yet, so I don't actually know how spring vibes they are, but that is book number 1, and it might be the one that I start with. Probably will be. And then I want to make my first foray into Holly Black's work with The Darkest Part of the Forest. This one is about these siblings, and they live in this town where there is a like fae prince guy in this glass coffin asleep, very Snow White-esque, and one day he wakes up and that leads them to some kind of adventure. Not sure exactly what, but very excited for that one. I feel like this sounds a little bit more of like an urban fantasy modern day kind of a book. And then I have a book by Naomi Novik. This will be my first book that I've read by her outside of the Temporary series, and this is, did I say it? This is Uprooted. But this one, I believe, again, could be so wrong, is like a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. And I think it's mostly just the like cover and title that is making me feel like this could be a spring book. I have no idea if that is true. I could be totally wrong again. But I guess every 10 years, a young woman must be handed over as a sacrifice. Our main character gets picked as the next one. I'm not really sure based off the back of this how this is supposed to be Rumpelstiltskin inspired, so I might be mixing them up. Naomi Novik has a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. I don't know that this one is it. We will see. I will update you when I get into it, but those are the 3 books I'm going to read for this video. So hopefully we can get into the spring spirit. And I think I'm feeling like I'm gonna start with Fablehaven. We'll start that one and then we'll jump into the next books. Alright, I have updates for you guys. First of all, I finished Fablehaven. This one was good. I'm giving it like 4 stars probably. Just not quite something that feels like a 5-star book to me, but I did really enjoy it. This one has a lot of crazy like betrayal things. It is very much so a book where you literally cannot trust anyone. You have no idea who is like the good guys, who's the bad guys, which is very interesting to follow along, especially because our 2 main characters are like kids, and so they're very easily manipulated, and so they get talked into helping the bad guys quite a few times, thinking that it's someone that they can trust, because inherently kids are just going to do what adults say, right? And so that is a big theme in this book. But yeah, overall it's fun. There's a lot of different creatures in this series in general. Like, he's kind of worked everything into this one, but yeah, Fablehaven's a good time. I'm definitely going to continue working my way through the series. I am definitely enjoying this one. And then I have also started The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I am about, let's see, I'm on chapter 12. I'm 143 pages through this book. First thoughts, definitely like classic YA.
fantasy. This book, and I might get a lot of negative feedback for saying this, but it reminds me a little bit, it feels like if Good Girl's Guide to Murder was fantasy. There's just something about them. I think it's maybe the main characters. The more I think about it, I think that that's what's feeling so similar. They're a very similar they're a very similar main character. Kind of that personality of like just constantly getting themselves into trouble, feel like they are gonna save the world type of girl. Which is interesting. They also have this similar vibe of like we're following high schoolers, but all they do is party, and like we'd never really see them at school. Good Girls Guide to Murder had more school, but like these kids rarely go to school. Granted, a lot of it is like flashbacks to when they were a kid in this book, but there are a lot of secrets going on, and I don't know that we've gotten all of the information yet, so it'll be interesting to see. I feel like the first, I don't know, 50 to 100 pages was the characters constantly being like, well, but they don't know this, or I have this secret, or something like that. And we're finally starting to figure out what a lot of those are, but I also feel like we still don't have the full picture on things yet, so it's going good. Is it gonna be a favorite for me? No. The characters are just a little stereotypy. It's feeling a little not super unique. I don't know, I feel like people love her writing. They're like, she writes fairy tales, and I don't know that I feel like I'm picking up that vibe that everybody rants about. Like, it's good and I'm flying through it. I will probably finish this today, but I don't know that I'm quite getting the hype around Holly Black. And I know this is not her most popular book, so maybe I just need to try The Cruel Prince, but we'll see. I'll update you probably when I'm done with this book.
Alright, I've finished The Darkest Part of the Forest. Trying to put my thoughts together on this. I will say, after I talked to you guys last, stuff really picked up. The plot started moving, we started going a lot faster. I think really my issue with this book is a pacing thing, where we spent so long at the beginning of the book setting up this like groundwork. And I'm not saying that it wasn't things we needed to know, but it was definitely much more in-depth and drawn out than we needed. It's one of those things where I'm like, it's a fairy tale, so we could have started with just like a once upon a time there was a girl, lay out the facts, here's the like short and sweet little like fairy tale-ized version of their childhood, and then we jump to present day and we can go more in depth, because the second half of the book felt so rushed, and I wish we would have gone more in depth into what was going on. There was a lot of stuff happening. There were some fun twists, but I felt like you just didn't really have time to process it before we were like moving on to something else. And I just wish we could have dived into those a little bit more, less of their like backstory. So the beginning of the book, you spend a lot of time getting like the history of this brother and sister and all of these things, and again, necessary information, but I didn't need it that in depth. So yeah, I did like the ending. I feel like there was some fun things. She had a lot of fun elements, and just generally the book got significantly better when we started like really leaning into the fantasy part. The first part of it is like, what would even be the term? Like a low level fantasy. Like, he's got magic, we're aware there's fae, but they're kind of at a distance. It's like this tourism thing. We're mostly in the modern day, but when it switches to where we're like fully into fantasy, we're like in a war against the fae type of a deal. It's not really what's happening, but like it gets very intermingled. We give up on this whole idea that we're modern day humans and like just focus on dealing with the creatures that are attacking us. That's when I feel like it got a lot stronger. So I am interested to read maybe some of her other books that are fully just set in a fantasy world. I don't know if that's what The Cruel Prince is, but the like fantasy elements she did really strongly. I don't know that I felt like the other parts were quite as good. Overall, I think I'm gonna like a 3.5, 3.75. I had a good time and it was really fast, but it's not a new favorite book for me. There was a lot of really good elements. It just has a pacing issue. And then I have started Uprooted. I am on chapter 4. It's like a little over 50 pages into the book. I'm enjoying the setup of this one. I feel like, I can't remember if it was in this video or another one where I said I thought this was a Rumpelstiltskin. I think that might be Spinning Silver. This one feels more like Beauty and the Beast meets Princess in the Tower being guarded by a dragon. So the main thing I'm disappointed about is that the dragon is a person. That is like the name that they use for the lord of their, whatever the term is for like their little area within the kingdom. So it's a guy. It's not an actual dragon, which whatever. But she has been taken away. They like, he takes one girl every 10 years. She's the one who got picked. That part's pretty obvious from the back of the book. And we're just kind of following right now the dynamic of them trying to get used to each other. She's trying to figure out what on earth happens in the tower because nobody talks about it. Nobody knows what he does with these girls. And she's starting to find out that maybe she's a little bit of a different case, and what everybody else had to do is not exactly what she's having to do, mostly involving the magic side of things. She is like the biggest klutz ever. She, like, that is her thing that she is known for, is she will get anything messy, she will get anything ripped or torn, like she cannot keep herself clean, and he is like OCD about cleanliness and stuff. So that's kind of their main place they're button heads right now. And she's just not exactly been raised in a way to make her like a good servant for him or whatever. Like, she's sort of his servant, but she's just not quite the like people pleaser that they're supposed to be trained to be, I guess, because nobody thought it was going to be her. There was another girl that everybody thought was going to be picked, and so that girl was getting trained all this time, and she's like, I can barely cook without just like making a disaster of everything, and I like am going to fight back on anything and talk back. And so he's gotten a little more than he bargained for with her. But there's some sketchy things going on in the forest. I think she's gonna end up getting involved in politics on like a larger scale, if I had to guess. But we'll see. I'm liking it. I do love Naomi Novik's writing. She does a very good job of making it just feel like a fairy tale. So, having a good time. I'm gonna go keep reading this. I will update you guys at some point. I have finished Uprooted, and I'm trying to figure out how to put my thoughts into a coherent, succinct summary. Overall, I'm giving this book a 4.5 stars. The magic system, so cool in this book. It is very unique. There's lots of very fun new creatures. There is a sentient wood, and that is like the main enemy, I guess. But then as you get further into the book, you realize it's a lot more complicated than that, and it's not necessarily like, here's the good guys, here's the bad guys. Everybody's flawed. Everybody has redeeming qualities. And it just gets really complicated. I will say there were parts of the magic that were a little difficult to follow, just in that I don't feel like it was super laid out like what the rules were with magic of when you could and couldn't use it. There was definitely some distinct, like, using lots of magic drains you a lot. So like your physical abilities limit your magical abilities, but there was a lot of interesting stuff, and I think part of it was because how it's set up in the book. There's like codified magic, and then what our main girl is doing is like breaking all the rules. And so she's doing stuff and all the other wizards are like, how are you doing this? And so in that aspect, I think it makes it a little more confusing to try and follow the magic. This was a little further on the spicy side of things that I personally prefer. I know most people are going to look at this and probably say that's not really that spicy at all. There's 2 scenes. One of them, nothing really actually happens. And then the second one is a bit more, I like none. So just be forewarned, this is like an adult book. You can see them coming and you can kind of just skim and skip them. I appreciate when authors have it where like sex scenes have like a break after them, or like it's the end of a chapter or something, so you can kind of just skim to the next, like where we pick back up. So that's just what I did. It was a little annoying to me, mostly in that they're like on the cusp, they're like surrounded by enemies, about to have to fight this big battle. They're like, we should go get some sleep because we're gonna need as much energy as we can get. And then it turns into that. I was like, you're supposed to be sleeping. idiots. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. The ending was good. For having those scenes in it, it's not much of a romance. Like the romance is a sub plot, which is also part of why I was just like, I didn't need that scene. It didn't feel like it fit with where they were in their arc. And then they pretty much abruptly like leave and are separated for another like year. So it just felt a little forced, I guess. Like we just put it in there to have it in there, and it just felt so unnecessary. But I did love our characters. I loved the Baba Yaga references. Baba Yaga is one of my favorite folktales. It's just something about Baba Yaga I just love. So if you have anything else that includes Baba Yaga in it, please let me know. I've read Thistlefoot. That might be it. But I do love a Baba Yaga retelling, so I really enjoyed that. This one's not necessarily a retelling. It's got a lot of classic fairy tale elements. So got a little bit of Beauty and the Beast, got a little bit of Rapunzel in the Tower, some Baba Yagas thrown in there, but it is ultimately something very unique and it stands on its own. But yeah, really loved it. I do love Naomi Novik's writing. I had a great time. And as I'm finishing my spring books video, it has snowed today. So that was great. But my books felt very springy, very foresty. I feel like that's the common theme amongst these books, and something about forests and plants feels very spring to me. So that was my spring books. I have several other books that are still on my spring TBR, so I will be reading those slowly. I just barely got Green Teeth from Libby, so we'll be starting that one soon, but not gonna include it in this video. Anyways, let me know what you thought of these books, if you've read them, any recommendations you might have, because I did have a very good week reading these spring books. I enjoyed them all. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.